Yo, Sanctus here. I want to talk a little bit about Helltides now that we're moving into Season 1. I've seen a lot of discussion about the different endgames or lack thereof in Diablo 4, mostly that being Nightmare Dungeons and obviously the Uberlith fights. I haven't seen a lot of discussion around Helltides. And I think the discussions that have taken place have been warranted, but I also think that Helltides has a lot of missed opportunities. I think moving into season one, we haven't heard anything about any changes coming to Helltide. And I really think that's missed opportunities there. So I want to talk a little bit about some things I think they could improve. But firstly, just to talk a little bit about what Helltide is right now in this preseason and what it's probably going to be in season one. So in the preseason, it's this system, once you get World Tier 3, you're going to go in there, do a couple. As a system, you go to the zone where it's up for an hour every few hours. And there's different chests you could open, right? There's the mystery chest, which you can't find unless you use a third-party website, which we'll get a little bit into. And then there's the chests that have like specific armor or item slots. And early in the preseason, the point of it was simply to go get, if you would try to open obviously mystery chests because they had higher quantity and quality. But after that, you'd go open whatever chest had certain aspects that weren't part of codex or like were very, build enabling and specific that you needed. You maybe wanted to try to get a high roll, or again, maybe it wasn't in the codex. So for me, I'm a barbarian, it would often be rings for the shout ring, which is extremely rare. And it's, I was lucky enough to get a decent roll on my first ring, but I didn't get a max roll. So that's kind of the role of it in the early preseason. Now they've added in the ability to target uniques, especially the uber rare uniques. Like they're still uber rare, but you can now target them, which has changed kind of the dynamic or the reason to do Helltides, and maybe even how you want to do them. Before you wanted to do obviously all the mystery chests first, and then you wanted to go and target specific chests. I mean, at some point you might actually just you wanted to just do the specific chest that you were there for. Again, like yeah, because maybe you weren't able to really get a lot of good upgrades randomly from the mystery chest. But now specifically, you might want to start considering, okay, is there a uber rare unique that I want to spend all my Helltide time trying to get. Now the thing is, once you get to at least World Tier 4, but maybe also in World Tier 3, but definitely World Tier 4, when your build is up and running, you have good gear, you'll be able to get, like, depending on when the Helltide is happening, if it's happening, like half an hour before the change of an hour. So here it's on this video, it's quarter to 2 p.m., which means it's actually exactly half an hour for the hour swap. So in this Helltide, I should be able to get all four mystery chests. Now I can then tell you that I didn't because I have a baby that I'm taking care of, so I had to get up from my chair and do some stuff for the baby on the second half hour. But point being, eventually you'll be able to get all the mystery chests and like 4 mystery chests and the 2 like specific item chests. So if you wanted to go for a Shaco, you can get Helm. And so that's the preseason version of it. The season 1 version of it is, I think, gonna be the same. Like maybe on July 18th we'll see some patch notes that changes some things, but some of the suggestions I'm gonna come with, I just don't believe are gonna be there because I think they would have been mentioned in the dev stream or just the post about the season 1 systems and mechanics that's coming. So just before we get into those suggestions, I just want to talk about the goods and the bads of the system. Like, I think the goods is that it really takes the open world and makes it interesting. I think it's a good way to add in ways to get upgrades, but that are also you're able to target farm certain aspects. Now, again, like I said, certain uniques, but also this kind of the mystery chest, at least in the start of the release and for newer players, it's interesting to try and figure out like how does it work. But of course, the community as a whole has figured it out, and so if you're not googling it, if you're not like figuring it out through some third party means, you just blocking yourself a little bit. And that kind of brings me to some of the bad things, which is that in order to optimally do Helltides, you have to have this third party website open, right? So helltides.com lets you know through a community-based system, right? Like it's an upvote system. People upvote certain chests to tell you which of the spawns are up, which in itself is cool, right? And it is not like something that just takes something out of an API and then post it with no interaction. Like there is some interaction between players, right? Like certain players are going to certain locations, finding out if the chest is there, then upvoting it, letting everybody else know this is where it is. It's not much different than uh, like a world chat or whatever. But then again, it is a little bit because you do get a specific location on the map. So it like the part of it being a community thing, I think is good. The part of it that you need a third party website to find those mystery chests, at least going into season 1, I think is not good. Like, of course, people have made the website now, and I guess you could say it would also be kind of mean to, take away the reason for them to have that. Like that's potentially an area where these people can have some growth and maybe some some patronage and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. I think at this point there definitely shouldn't be a third party website to show you where the mystery chest is. It should just be on the map, or at least it should show up way early on the map if you get close or something, or maybe you get a text from. I don't know, but that's kind of the bad of it. And then another point would be the density. I think it's zone dependent for sure. Some zones have much better density, and some areas within zones have less density. In this zone, for example, around the beaches, there's a lot of these drowned mobs, which come in huge packs, and there are quite a lot of them. And I think, as long as that's the case, that's good. But here I find 3 mobs, like, it's just too little. It's too little. So I need to up that for sure. So that would bring me to the suggestions, and that's kind of one of the suggestions that I have, is to increase the density of monsters for sure. That's an easy one. I think I should definitely do that. But I also think they could do that in different ways. So one could be that the lieutenants could be upgraded to be a little bit more difficult, but also have them maybe spawn in an area of the map and have them like be a Helltide within a Helltide, where this lieutenant spawns and they start, like, maybe not necessarily an event, but when they spawn, they start spawning a lot of extra demons as well. So that you kind of have to fight your way through an army of demons to get to the lieutenant to kill them and stop the kind of invasion. Of course, there is some adjustments to this idea that has to be made, and I'm no expert. Of course, I'm coming with the idea, but you don't want to run into the situation where the play is to not kill the lieutenant because it keeps spawning mobs. But I think that's just fixed by just adding more density overall, to the point where the density that's being added just isn't, you have this lieutenant, it's going to spawn more mobs, but there's already a lot of mobs being spawned so around the rest of the area, and maybe the drop rates from those demons aren't as high, and then killing the lieutenant obviously should just be like giving you a bunch of cinders or whatever. And you can have that around the world, and you can also, I think there's a missed opportunity for a world-esque boss. I know there's like a lot of mixed opportunity on what a world boss should be, and I kind of agree that And it's just, especially in a game that has hardcore, you can't make a world boss that is something that you can't actually. I mean, I guess you can make something you can't solo, but if you do that, like you kind of have to either tune up the damage so high that it's way too risky for hardcore play to do it, or you have to tune up the HP so much that it's just too long and not worth doing it if you're solo or only a few players or players with bad builds or whatever. So it gets very messy and difficult to balance. But I do think what they could do is add in a Helltide boss, but instead of having it being a world boss, it could be an instanced boss. So at some point during Helltide, whether it's random or, objective based or, I don't know, based on how many cinders have been dropped and looted or something like that within Helltide, like a portal spawns to hell or something, and you get to go and defeat the uber demon or whatever that's launching this Helltide or whatever. And that instance could obviously be like you enter there, and there could be it could be like forced group. I think that's obviously not the way to go. I think the better way to go would just be like, if you're solo and you enter that portal, then you go in solo. But if you're in a group and you go in and the rest of the group comes in, then you're in a group and you get to fight this boss, which is maybe like an Uber boss of some sort. Again, I think something that I didn't mention, but I think that Helltide's role really should be to fill that gap, which is the mid to end game. I'm almost going to call it a lull, because once you get to level 80, well, I think for me it actually started at level 75. I got a rogue to 75, I think, or 6 or something, 78 maybe even, and I got this barbarian to a 5. And I think for both of those, it was around level 75 that I started to feel like, okay, I mean, what am I realistically doing here? I'm just killing things because it's fun, which is good, but I don't have a goal, I don't have a boss to work towards, nothing like that. So I feel like if they could add in some things into the Helltide, which is like, I don't know, maybe you could also, it could be like a progression thing where over time, over different Helltides, you collect certain, I don't know, it could be key fragments, or it could be just, a progression bar of collecting X amount of cinders, open X amount of chests, gives you the ability to enter this kind of Uber realm with like an Uber boss. And it would give you this kind of in the levels of 75 to 95, maybe as a boss to aim for. And the boss could be level 85 or 95 or whatever. Probably in the lower end of that, where it gives you something to aim for to do in those levels. Of course, you can still do the boss once you're level 100, but we need some sort of Uber boss, I think, earlier than Lilith. And of course, we're getting one with season 1, but I just think Helltides is a missed opportunity, and that's kind of what I wanted to make this video. So, but I don't know, what do you guys think? What do you think they should do with Helltide? Should they just leave it be, do the old Blizzard thing where they make a system and it's not, well loved, or they don't see a lot of potential and they just leave it be for years until they phase it out? Or do you guys agree with me that they could maybe do some things with it, make it more interesting, use it as a part of the mid to end game even more so than it is right now? Please let me know in the comments, and let's have a discussion about what Helltides could be. My assumption is going to be whatever we discuss, it's going to be season 2 or 3, which I think it's not too late, but I do think it's a missed opportunity for season 1, especially with the lack of mid to end game gameplay and bosses or whatnot to do. So yeah, thanks for watching. Talk to you guys in the next one.